listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Jodee Prouse, author of The Sun Is Gone, A Sister Lost in Secrets, Shame and Addiction, and How I Broke Free. Jodee is a speaker and blogger, a wife, a mother of 2 sons, and lives in Alberta, Canada. Jodee, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Well, Jodee, you obviously had addiction in your family. What made you decide to share your journey and write a book?
When this was happening, I had alcoholism on so many branches of my family tree. So I'd been used to seeing it my whole life. But really nothing affected me more than when my younger brother, Brett, became addicted to alcohol. Except this was so far beyond anything that I had ever imagined or witnessed. And I just thought it was an important story to tell. I didn't think people would believe that alcohol could do this. And so that was my motivation.
Well, we're sorry about your brother. That's too bad.
Thank you.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your brother's journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It was 12 years of severe substance abuse. And, you know, I wrote it in a way, I wanted it to be different than any other book on the market. You know, most memoirs are written by the addict in recovery, if it's on that topic. So, of course, it has a happy ending with just a partial little piece of the story. I wanted to write the whole thing to really show the world what it is really like and how some of these things can start in childhood. So it starts when my brother and I are only 2 and 6 years old and takes us all the way until I'm about 47. So
wow.
You really do see the whole story and you're on the journey with us every step of the way.
Wow. And I saw a picture of you and your brother, and what a nice looking young man he was.
Yeah, thank you. You know, that's the thing. Addiction can happen to anybody, and
right.
It takes the magnificent and the kind and the handsome and all these great things, and it can still get a hold of you.
Well, I think that's why your story is so important, because just like you mentioned, sometimes people, it's not going to happen to me or my family. But in reality, it can happen to anyone. No one knows who it's going to happen. It's an addiction.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can start very innocently. I mean, you look at the problems with prescriptions and someone just innocently is in pain and they take something and they get addicted. And, you know, I always say when people say, you know, it's a choice, and, you know, the worst mistake my brother ever made was just being a teenager in high school and started drinking with his buddies. Mm-hmm. Who isn't guilty of that?
Right.
But unfortunately, we never know if we're the one. And we certainly never know if it can be someone that we love.
So how long did it take you to research and to recall all the stories and to put it all together?
Well, I'll tell you, in 2005, I knew then that I was going to write this story. I just knew it was important. And so I actually started taking notes when I was going through this with my brother, which really helped, you know, all the years later. And so it took, once I sat down and really started writing, it took 3 years from the time I started putting paper to pen and until it was ready to be published.
So your brother knew you were writing a book about him?
He did. We have a long, complicated story. You know, it's addiction. It's not easy. And in 2009, I hadn't seen him for quite some time because I drew that safe boundary for me and my family. And he had been sober for a couple months, and we went for a walk and we talked about it, and he made me promise to keep writing. And I said to him at the time, you know, no one wants a lesson, they want an inspiration. Mm-hmm. And he promised me he would be an inspiration. And although sadly my brother didn't make it, I do think it's still an inspiration to others. We can learn so much, not just about people that succeed in sobriety and recovery. We hear those stories all the time. I think we can learn so much about the people that don't make it. I mean, gosh, we're never going to cure cancer if we only concentrate on what works and we don't concentrate on what doesn't. And so I do hope my brother's story inspires the whole family to change.
Well, I would think also that maybe some families whose loved ones did not make it, your story would, make them feel more comfortable, because I'm sure a lot of times, all of us, no matter what our story is, we might feel we're the only person experiencing this, or, you're lonely. And by reading your book, I'm sure people will feel some comfort knowing that, okay, not everyone does make it through this.
And that is what fills my heart, and that's what I'm hearing from other people.
Great.
They do everyone feels so alone.
Yeah.
Just so alone and lost, and we don't talk about it, right? The shame and the stigma involved, and just, oh my gosh, someone else knows what I'm going through. And that does bring comfort. And I think for those that have lost a loved one, I think it brings comfort if I, in some small way, can give someone the courage to start talking about their loved one that didn't make it, to help use their story to help other people.
I'm sure a lot of people are afraid to come out and talk about it within their family, or tell a friend about somebody in their family for the fear of being judged.
Absolutely. And the world is full of judgment. I mean, there is judgment sometimes, not all the time, but when we go to the hospital and we see it in the media, but we even feel it in our own families.
Right.
But if someone has to start speaking, someone has to start changing. And that's what I just hope to do. And just, anonymity has worked. And some people still do want to be anonymous. But we're living in a world where we are supposed to stand up and be proud of our journeys and proud that we have lived through these things and share our experiences.
Well, congratulations.
It is a disease. Yeah. Well, thank you.
So when you wrote the book, did you have people read it as you were going along, or did you have an editor?
Well, I wrote the book, and I will say for anyone out there that is going to write a book, for 20 years I've been self-employed. I owned a beauty company. I am not a writer. I made body lotion for a living.
Oh, well, that's cool.
So I never, ever, had aspirations where, oh my gosh, someday I want to be a writer. But it was just in my heart that I thought that this could help some other people. And so when I wrote it, I only let two people, one of my dear friends, and another one is my son's girlfriend, because she was distant enough to the story that she could give me kind of her impartial thoughts on it. I didn't want to let anyone read it, really. I didn't even let my own husband read it until after it was published.
Wow.
It's a memoir, and I didn't want someone else's opinion to kind of interject with, this was my story. This was how I saw it. This was how I lived it. And so that was my writing process. And then when it was all finished, I did realize I pride myself in surrounding myself with people in this world that make me better. And so I know where my weaknesses are. I had no idea how to get a publisher. And so I hired a man to, help me with the gripping cover letter to get an agent, because that's what we're told we need to do. And, I sent out, over the course of 1 year, I sent out over 250 emails, and I waited and waited and waited some more.
250.
And it's not for the weak.
And that's what we keep hearing.
It's depressing, and most went unanswered, and a lot actually came back not the topic for me. And so, this is a story of, addiction and mental illness. And in that course of a year, I could really not even get it read. And so I did the absolute no that we're told, and I went and tried to find a publisher directly. And I'm so proud to say that the first one it went to, she read it, she agreed to take it, and we had an editor. I spent the next year doing all those things. And,
wow.
I don't even think the finished book, I'm so proud, but boy, working with an editor, what a transformation. I mean, she challenged me and she switched some things around, and I am so proud of the finished story and what it is. And 60 days before it was set to be published, the publisher was on the brink of bankruptcy and decided not to publish any books directly.
Oh my gosh.
And so you can
Heartbreaking.
imagine all those emotions.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
But you know what? What I have lived through and the positive message I hope it brings at the end, which is that we have no control over so many things. And so I just went, you know what? Things do happen for a reason, and I'm not turning back. I didn't even let it bring me down. And I just thought, okay, for some reason I meant to self-publish. And so that's what I did.
Wow, good for you. That's great.
That is very cool. So before we get into the self-publishing, I just want to ask you about your query emails that you sent out. So, the 200 plus that you sent out, did you include an excerpt from the book, or did you just a synopsis of the book? What was your email like?
Yeah, well, I followed, I follow their guidelines. I go and I found all the best agents that I thought I could find, and some of them did just query letters, some did the first 3 chapters, some asked for a synopsis. I had all of those things.
It's a lot of work.
Right.
It's an incredible amount of work, and you get obsessed with sitting by your phone or sitting by your email, just wanting it to beep. And it wasn't what I was expecting. And I think because everyone is going to be so proud of the book that they wrote, whatever it's about. And I did think it would be easier. I did think there would be an easier or more of a response, or a lot of the ones that I sent, I have to say, even if they agreed to read a few chapters, and I rarely heard back. It was a really hard year.
Well, that's what we keep hearing, and it just from as a person, it's so hard to hear how much effort goes into these, and people can't respond. You wish they could at least send an email. Intern can send an email and saying, thank you, we received your, something. Yeah, or even when they say, hey, I'll read your manuscript, and you send it away. Never to even say, even to say, I don't, it's not for me, or I don't care for it because, or just, you're right. Any just sort of to acknowledge you.
No, thank you. To acknowledge.
Yeah. Even you got an email. I just said no, thank you. At least I heard from them. I know they saw it.
Right.
Exactly. And it wasn't happening in the way. And I do always pull out positives. And what I learned, even I said I hired the original gentleman to help me with that query letter. And what he had taught me that I never would have known when I was waiting for during that year and waiting for responses, I sent out to some famous people or people that I really respected in the addiction community to get some testimonials.
Oh, okay.
And I am so impressed with some of the people that I got, just a girl that, like I said, owned a beauty company just a few months prior. And I got some really amazing testimonials from some amazing people. And I wouldn't have got that otherwise had I, not reached out and really said, what do I need to do? What can I be working on during this process as I wait for an agent or a publisher?
Great.
Right. So once again, it doesn't hurt to get a no, so you might as well try. And if you get a yes, more power to you. Yeah,
well, you have a no until you ask, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to self-publishing. You find out that the publisher is not going to publish any more books, and you decide, okay, I'm going to go with self-publishing. What was your next step?
Well, luckily for me, that publisher still agreed to take me on and help me through the self-publishing process.
Oh, great.
Oh, that's
so nice. By then, the book had been edited. It was ready. They had helped me do the cover. There still were some things that even with them, I was firm. I was firm on what I wanted the title to be. That was always going to be the title for my book. So they helped me do all those things, and they helped me self-publish. They helped me load it onto Amazon. They helped me with the retail, all those things.
Great.
And so I'm really blessed that they followed through with that, because it certainly helped, because really I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure that they were probably disappointed in what happened to the company and wanted to fulfill their promises. So that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure they were rooting for you, right? If they took you on, they want you to succeed. So
yeah, for sure. And,
Right.
and like I said, it was, I believe, the first person that actually read the thing from start to finish. And I'm very proud of that someone agreed to take it on.
yeah.
And so what were some of the trials or tribulations or low points or high points with doing self-publishing?
Well, I still, when you talk to people and you say you self-publish, anyone that self-publishes always says, or most of the time says, oh, we would only do it that way. With me, I have to say, I never wrote this you make more money, I think, if you self-publish it, if it really takes off.
Yeah, that's what we hear.
But, and I can only go by what I'm told, but money was never the motivating factor for me. It was just really more to help other people and to help other families. And so for that, I'm extremely grateful I'm self-published. I still, in my heart, do wish I had a major publisher. I think it would be a little bit easier. I can't quite yet get into bookstores. But I have been interviewed substantially, and, I'm hoping that that's yet to come.
Well, let's talk about that. We do see you seem to be very active. What has been the best forum for you to let people know about your book?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of writing, and I've really pushed myself to be able to do that, because that's outside of my comfort zone. But I write on different topics and send them to other websites, and I'm so blessed that some really important people, like The Fix, took one of my articles, and I think it was shared 4,400 times.
Wow.
Oh, that's nice.
But I just really speak in how the world is treated, right? Like the title of that article was "My Brother's a Junkie Who Deserved to Die."
Oh.
And I wrote it that way because someone said that to me.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
that's how we're
Wow.
treated.
Wow.
And so I'm blessed in that I've had support that way. I write a blog on my website. Shows like yours. I've been asked just in the last 6 weeks. I think I'm booked for 55 different radio shows.
Congratulations.
Gosh, wow, how did you do that? I think
Thank
I
you.
think our listeners will be interested in hearing how you did that.
Yeah, well, again, I do really believe in just surrounding yourself with people that can help you. And so I found just this amazing radio PR publicist, Jackie Lappin, and she did a media kit for me, and she sent out all about me to the radio shows. And yeah, so far I've have 55 booked.
Great.
And that's the thing about being self-published is you do have to get out there, and it does take work. I think actually it does, even if a high-priced publisher took your book. I think you still have to work at getting it out there.
Sure. I mean, we've heard lots of times that, once you have the book written and it's printed, that's the 10%. Now, the next 90% is getting the book into people's hands.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that sounds great, getting on 55 radio shows. That's very impressive. That's in Canada and the United States?
Yeah, and they're actually mostly in the United States. There's one actually at 3 a.m. this morning. I have one. I have to set my alarm.
Oh, no.
It's in Australia.
Oh, fun.
And I have one booked in Ireland.
Wow.
And I am so, so grateful because it is reaching all over. And, without things like this and shows like yours, I mean, I would never be able to reach that kind of an audience.
So do you use Facebook much to promote your book?
Yeah, I do use Facebook. I have a different site. I have my personal Facebook page, and all my very close friends are probably very tired of hearing all this stuff about the
That's okay.
But and then I also have a Hope and Humility site on Facebook that people do follow also, that I do all my interviews and, special promotions and things like that, or anything addiction and mental illness related.
Oh, okay. So we can put a link to that in our show notes.
Sure.
That would be great.
boosting my posts and paying Facebook and zooming in on the audience that I want to reach, that definitely has made the most impact. I think, too, going back to writing articles for other websites, that, too, has really been a great thing in getting people to mine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure. I would think that then other people who might, who you're finding all different audiences by writing on other people's posts. Good thinking. Yeah.
And then how's the best way for people to buy your book?
Yeah, well, it's on Amazon.com, or it is available on my website, JodeeProuse.com. So that's JodeeProuse.com. And actually on my website, if you buy it directly from me, I am giving away $89 necklaces. Oh. You can choose one that says hope, happiness, peace, or humility with any purchase of the book.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
It's just another way of if you know someone that you think it will benefit, just another way. We all do have a story, and I just always say to wear that story proudly, and so that's what inspired those designs.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah. So the best way to buy the book is on your webpage then, right?
Correct.
It is. The best
really
way
is
probably
the best way.
for the reader. Yeah.
And then if our listeners want to get in touch with you, how would be the best way? Would that be Facebook or an email?
Yeah, either one. They can go right onto the website. All my my email and my Facebook and everything is just right on there. Or they can email me directly at jodeeprouse@gmail.com.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Nice email address.
Yep.
What is your advice to writers?
Just to never give up. If you believe, or that goes for life, but certainly when you write your book, if you believe in it, just keep going. I mean, it is not an easy road, but, some of the greatest things in this world aren't easy. And I know that firsthand from my journey. And, it was worth, I don't even feel bad that 250 agents didn't get back to me. Because I just believe this happened this way for a certain reason. And so just never give up.
And you got the book out even without them. So
I
right
did.
on.
Yeah, well, probably what you're, just like you just said, maybe you wouldn't be doing, it might not have gotten all the publicity that you're getting now if you had the publisher.
Traditional publisher.
Who knows,
Yeah,
like
absolutely, because you're not in control anymore, are you? You're you would have to do what they thought, and the book has only been out since April, and so yes, I'm so extremely proud of just the momentum it's getting already. I do believe if it gets just into the right hands, that this will be a bestseller.
Great.
Oh.
Well, we hope so.
Well,
we wish you
we're
the
behind
best.
you.
We wish you the best,
Thank
Jodee.
you.
Well, Jodee, thanks for joining us today. It's great having you as a guest on the Author Inside You podcast.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all that you do, because we can't do this alone.
Thank you to the authors who take the time to be on our podcast. We really do appreciate you sharing your story and your journey of writing a book.
And thank you to you, the listener, for listening to our podcast and sharing it with your friends. And until next time,
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.